So I read this new book, The Culting of America by Daniella Mestyanek Young. And I'd read her earlier book, Uncultured, I think it was. And it was good. So I decided to read this new one, and the new one's quite different. It's sort of a textbook about cults. It talks about all the markers of cults, how you can tell a cult from an uncult group, how to avoid cults, all the mechanisms of control and slavery within cults, like forced labor, all the stuff that goes on in cults. And I kind of knew all that stuff already, so in a way, this book was not that useful for me. It might be useful for you if you're susceptible to cults. I'm susceptible to avoiding everything, actually. And that's a problem with cults, and the problem with this kind of culture is that it makes us weary and confused and afraid to join anything because it's going to be turned into a cult, or it's going to be turned into like some kind of a CIA thing or something. So it's she talks about Alcoholics Anonymous, which is also culty, and it's just sort of says they're going to do this thing, and their actual percentage of people who stay off alcohol or whatever drug is very low. So it doesn't actually work that well when there's other things that are cropping up to deal with that. So she goes, through all talks about Scientology and the Children of God, which she was in, and all these other groups. And the thing about these cult people, I've noticed this with Rachel Bernstein too, with her podcast. I think it's called Indoctrination. I stopped listening to it some while ago when she was kind of ranting about Islamic nations and how evil and horrible they were. This was during something else, sort of a genocide that was going on by somebody who was not an Islamic nation at all. And, I felt like, yeah, she's kind of avoiding the biggest cult going. And I'm afraid that's a criticism I have of this book as well, in that it ignores uh, this major cult that captured a major religion, basically all through the 20th century, and compromised another religion in the meantime, and got created its own country, and got all this money from the United States, and now is kind of controlling the United States. So they don't mention this cult at all, and it has a lot of the same cult things of all the others. This kind of a true believing thing, and like this mission that the mission is all important, and you have to stay with the mission because it's world is going to be world changing for you personally and for everyone. So she doesn't talk about that, and I'm like, well, why? What's the deal here? Why are these? I mean, Rachel Bernstein, I could sort of understand it, but maybe she was indoctrinated when she was young. So it's so even these cult experts are capable of being confused and not really willing to call out a cult. She also talks about what is the guy's name? Stephen Haskin. She talks about Stephen Haskin. She quotes something of Stephen Haskin. And in the footnotes puts, oh, well, I'm hesitant to mention anything about Stephen Haskin because of his no transphobic things he said about transphobic stuff. So I don't know what Stephen Haskins has said about transphobia, but on the other hand, isn't this another cult a cult that says, oh, you can as a child, you can determine what sex you are, what gender you are, by the way your brain feels or something, and then you can take all these medicines to be corrected into your proper gender, or is it just or is it just conversion therapy for gay children? So she didn't talk about that either in that sort of a way, but so she kind of goes along with the cult of liberal thought. Without thinking fully into it, and without with the first one is kind of inexcusable that people will not call out this big major cult that captured a religion and keep starting wars in the name of their god and their cult. It's outrageous, and so anyway, that's the book. The book had less impact than her first book because her first book was really a personal story about what went on with her, whereas this one is really kind of a textbook about cults. So in that way, it's kind of cold. I mean, it's not hot with her own experience and her own pain as the other book was. So that's the culting of America, and we'll talk to you again maybe someday, hey?